taking control of Lithuania after Vytenis' death. The diplomatic Gediminas, among other things, expanded Lithuanian territory by freeing Russian duchies from the Tatars and putting his relatives in charge, established Vilnius as the capital of Lithuania, married off his sons and daughters to the neighboring duchies to promote peace or secure alliances, and tried to bring Western European culture into Lithuania. Gediminas sought to establish peace. Finally, the Pope wrote a letter to Gediminas suggesting that his whole country would convert to Christianity. Gediminas responded that he wanted to Christianize the country, that he was not against Christianity, for he exercised religious tolerance in his country, but that the order, with its constant attacks, prevented Lithuania from Christianizing. As the Pope was sending legates to Lithuania, Gediminas changed his mind. He figured that the order wouldn't stop harassing Lithuania just because it would be Christian, and most of the population was pagan anyway, so he abandoned the idea quickly. To deal with the order, he made an alliance with Poland against a common enemy, but the alliance failed as Poland didn't help Lithuania in any of the battles. Thus he continued to fight the order till his death. Gediminas' son Jaunutis succeeded his father to become the ruler of Lithuania, but he was weak and ineffective. Therefore, his two older brothers, Algirdas and Kęstutis, decided to take the reins from him. Although Algirdas was officially the ruler of Lithuania, the two brothers treated each other as equals. Both would help out one another in battle. Kęstutis oversaw the western and southern Lithuania, while Algirdas looked after eastern and northern Lithuania. The two confronted the Teutonic Order for the first time in 1345, but no major battles occurred. However, the Teutonic Order then started launching its attacks in spurts. It would often invite the best European knights to go on marches to Lithuanian lands and kill pagans and loot those lands for entertainment. This changed once Kęstutis showed his wrath. Honest and noble, Kęstutis endlessly drew up tactics, gathered armies and fought, gaining respect from several Teutonic knight leaders. After defeating an army of knights and destroying the castle, Kęstutis would immediately start on another march to another castle. During Algirdas's reign, which lasted for 32 years, the Teutonic Order and the Livonian Order organized a total of 100 marches to Lithuania, while Lithuania organized 42 on both orders. On his deathbed, Algirdas made his son Jogaila the next ruler of Lithuania. His generation of Lithuanians wanted to come to terms with the order instead of continuing the spilling of blood. His still living uncle Kęstutis agreed, and the two signed a 10-year treaty with the Teutonic Order in 1379. But a year later, due to family conflicts, Jogaila signed a secret treaty with the Teutonic Order against Kęstutis and his lands. When the 84-year-old Kęstutis found out, he seized Jogaila's castle and demoted him to a duke, while making himself the Grand Duke. Then he continued his negotiations with the Teutonic Order and made trips to the east to keep up with the supervision of Russian duchies. But merchants, who knew that peace with the order would mean recovering economy, secretly gave Jogaila back Vilnius. Finally, Kęstutis' son Vytautas informed his father of Jogaila's return. The two came to Vilnius for negotiations with Jogaila, but were immediately arrested and imprisoned. Kęstutis was murdered, while Vytautas managed to escape his prison. Thus, the last ruler of the old generation that aggressively defended pagan Lithuania from invaders was gone. Runaway Vytautas soon made peace with the Teutonic Order and gathered an army of Teutonic knights, some Gishans, and Kęstutis' relatives, to depose Jogaila. Jogaila offered to resolve this conflict peacefully, and Vytautas demanded Jogaila to give him back his homeland of Trakai. After such agreements, Vytautas became a local duke. Meanwhile, for the ambitious Jogaila, an opportunity to become the king of Poland arose. In 1385, he signed the Union of Krevo, in which he agreed to Christianize Lithuania, unify Lithuania and Poland, recapture all lost Lithuanian and Polish lands, and release Polish prisoners in Lithuania in exchange for the crown of Poland and Queen Jadwiga's hand in marriage. Jogaila left Vytautas embittered when he didn't give him his promised homeland. His attempts to gather Lithuanians who disliked Jogaila's Polish ministers in Lithuania and lead them to capture Vilnius failed. Therefore, Vytautas turned to the Teutonic Order once again. With the order's support, Vytautas started to terrify Jogaila once again. Finally, Jogaila agreed to step down as the ruler of Lithuania and give up his post to Vytautas. Vytautas quickly centralized Jogaila's decentralized Lithuanian state and forced regional dukes to obey him. Those who didn't had their posts replaced by nobles loyal to Vytautas. Jogaila had hoped that Vytautas will be his viceroy, but instead he became an independent ruler collaborating with Jogaila only against common enemies. It is true that Vytautas gave away the Samogitians to the Teutonic Order several times, but he did so temporarily in order to focus on eastern lands. In the east he conquered Russian duchies and fought with the Tartars, expanding Lithuania's territory. After signing a pact created by the Polish nobility to force Lithuania and Poland closer together after his death, Vytautas proceeded to free Samogitia from the order and Christianize it. The order, having been tricked by Vytautas for the third time, prepared for a war against Poland and Lithuania. Jogaila and Vytautas then joined together in an effort to defeat the order in the Battle of Žalgiris, using a Mongolian war tactic to overwhelm the army. The two cousins succeeded, and after this battle, the Teutonic Order significantly weakened and eventually ceased to exist. During Vytautas' reign, the independent Lithuania reached its strongest state in history. The duchy reached from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea and was the biggest state in Europe. Knowing that commerce is an important element of a strong state, he promoted trade between the state and the Western European countries. In return, the merchants paid tribute to the Duke. He realized that Jews are important for maintaining credit, and invited them into Lithuania, giving them certain privileges and rights. Towards the end of his life, Vytautas was offered by the Holy Roman Emperor to become the King of Lithuania. His brother, Jogaila, decided to support the emperor's offer, but the Polish nobility quickly forced him to change his decision, as King Vytautas would mean an independent Lithuania, not a united Polish-Lithuanian state that the nobles wanted. Therefore, they stopped the crown while it was on its way to Vytautas. Another crown was sent, but he suddenly died before its arrival. Lithuania came under Russian control. The Russian Tsar Alexander I drastically increased taxes on the Lithuanian nobles, who were already relatively poor. Lithuania had a glimmer of hope in regaining its independence when Napoleon went to war with Russia, but France lost the war, and the starving and penniless French troops decimated the Lithuanian cities before returning to their homeland. Alexander immediately took control of Lithuania and punished those who sided with Napoleon. Afterwards, he attempted to Russify his conquered lands, but succeeded only in Russifying the Polonized Vilnius University. Most of the Lithuanian nobles continued speaking Polish. Still, the Lithuanian language did not die out. Many peasants and clerics, especially in Samogitia, still spoke the language. In order to preserve the language, the Samogitians wrote down poems, stories, and songs in their native tongue. Meanwhile, the Russians increased their efforts to Russify the lands on the pretext that medieval Lithuanians spoke Ruthenian, the native language of medieval Russia. They Russified schools, churches, nobles, and even brought in Russian families to live in Lithuania. However, the Russians made a mistake by believing that deep down, all Lithuanians were Russians, for many peasants spoke Lithuanian. When they attempted to censor the language, clerics, peasants, and intellectuals migrated to the neighboring Lithuania Minor. There, they printed literature in Lithuanian and smuggled the text into Lithuania. The secretly circulated texts were meant to elicit nationalism from the people. The books urged them to fight the Russian and the Polonized nobles. The head of this movement, the Samogitian bishop, Valentius, taught people how to resist. He encouraged them to not learn Russian, to not answer back in Russian, to homeschool their children, to not read Russian texts, to not attend Eastern Orthodox churches, and to rather die than to give in to Russians. Finally, Lithuania, supported by some common Russian people who were already growing tired of the autocracy of Tsar Nicholas II, won the right to free press in 1904. A year later, Lithuanian delegates participated in the Duma, a legislative body of the Russian government. However, the Duma was abused by the Tsar, and Lithuania couldn't do much about it, except to continue to fight for autonomy, which they achieved only after World War I.